This is what?
Yeah, and it's interesting though because like my family too, my parents had a value in being at home when they passed. And I fought with my siblings about that because I was like, my dad was adamant about my mother not dying in a hospital. And so good morning, Ruth. So
Good
he brought
morning.
her home, and I cared for her. And then when my grandmother passed, he brought her home. And so when he was going through this, my brother was basically the point person, was and he wasn't bringing him home. And I was like thinking, he is not. So what we did is he stayed in there until they exhausted all of the insurance benefits. And then after that, then we brought him home. So
My
ultimately,
aunt doesn't want to live with anybody.
yeah.
Even in
Well,
her Alzheimer's, she got enough to remember that statement. It's so droned in her. Y'all got husband, y'all got men's. Men's don't like in-law, mother-in-laws. I am not going to nobody's house.
we took my dad back to his house. We
Oh, okay.
we took all of them in the same house. They all passed in the same house.
Okay.
It was his house, and
Okay.
we did shifts.
Oh,
I
okay.
did the lion's share because I'm that emotional one that
Mm-hmm.
if I gotta push this by myself, I'm gonna push it by myself. But we took shifts, and it worked out. I mean, it worked like it was supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the goal was just to have him home when he passed, and we did that. So I mean, but I had a neighbor though who, when she needed to go into the nursing home and she didn't have anybody, they took her house. Um, yeah, she had to sign over her house and all her stuff, and she went into a nursing home, and she was in that nursing home for quite a while before she passed. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what the availability is of the sisters. But my cousin is just, having to sit in that and feel it and have the experience and
But
then, continue on.
but the one wonderful thing is that I always tell people you can't make it doesn't necessarily change the outcome, right?
Mm-mm.
We know that that's going to happen. So really all you can do is what you are going to be okay with doing yourself. And even then, the funny thing about it is, me and my cousin were talking about this. The mind seems to make adjustments so that we perceive it from a perspective after a while that sits okay with us, even if it's not the truth.
Right.
Right? We have a tendency to justify the things or the choices that we made further down the line, so that we're not constantly at this state of, did I do the right
Right. Well, you probably sure better, or else you'd be
thing?
in angst a lot. Like, that would be a lot of angst if you don't come to some type of reconciliation with a choice. 'Cause that's a lot of, but people live in that state of, I can imagine being guilty of that once upon a time, of not wanting to make a decision, and then having to be okay. And here's the beautiful thing, is that everything always works out. That's what we were talking about today. Like, everything always works out the way it's supposed to be, like, all the time.
Yeah. Now, so I can perceive myself as if, like if we hadn't been able to bring, if so, it wasn't my choice, right? But had we not made the decision to bring my father home, I could have seen me feeling as if I failed him.
Mm.
I could have seen that. And the fact that when we brought him home, that he only lived like another couple of weeks, you know, somebody was saying, see, we should have, and I was like, I was like, he was waiting to come home so he could pass.
Ah, because I do believe, in my humble opinion, that people have a manifestation
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that God is constantly saying, yes, yes, all caps to
Mm-hmm.
our journey. So if that was his desire, he got to live in his manifestation because that's a giant yes between him and all that is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so my aunt is always talking about put me in a nursing home, put me in a nursing home. This is partially her manifestation
Mm-hmm.
of how she imagined her journey was going to be. And that's the conversation that we had this morning about there is a there is a part of her experience that is hers, that is a yes for
Yeah.
her journey, whether she can remember it or not.
You know, it's interesting though, when I hear people say stuff like that, put me in a nursing home, I'm always curious if they've ever spent time in one.
That was what she did for a living.
Okay, okay, okay,
Tired doing that work.
okay,
Hmm.
good, good. Then she knows. All right. Um, because sometimes I hear people say that, and it's like they just have no clue what that is like.
Hmm.
So if she did that, then
I
wonderful.
see that she has to have Alzheimer's to be in there. She can't remember nothing. You know, she knows so much that she like, I'll go, but I'm not going to be fully present.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so my dad was at home, and I think that we did right by him.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because that was his value. His value was in, you don't let people die in some hospital or some nursing home. You know, I was like, he worked, and that's one of the things I kept saying to my family. He worked hard for what he had, and you know, we gonna exhaust whatever it is.
Hmm.
That's what we need to do, because I'm not sitting up there worrying about some inheritance or some money
Yeah.
after that. Just throw whatever you got to, and whatever we got at that will bring my dad home.
And I can see that happening with my cousins too. By the time my aunt is at a place where she don't get a say, they
Mm-hmm.
will have, because they're all like, you can come stay with me, Ma. You're like, no, 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 no. But I can see that as time goes on, where she doesn't have so much fight in her, that they make that choice for her as well. And yeah, I can see that becoming a thing, but it's so fresh and new. And because of the fragility of her health,
Mm-hmm.
having someone to be on top of that too is important. But it's just amazing because when do you get ready for that in your life? You just don't prepare for. I got a glimpse when I first came home and my dad was in, ICU and on a feeding tube and came home on a feeding tube.
Mm-hmm.
That was scary. And thank God he recovered. And, you wouldn't even know that we had that experience for 6 months, but you just you don't get ready for it. You don't
Right.
prepare for it. So, but to everyone who is in that journey, I send you so much love, light, and wisdom, and strength.
Yeah, yeah. And look, and this too shall
They'll
pass.
pass. It's true.
This too shall pass. So
It's
on the
true.
other side, it is just important to have that level of self-respect where you're okay with how you showed up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another one of those, don't look away, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people try to do is they want to run from it, look away, and then they don't have that level of self-respect on the other side. So
Mhm.
yeah, just show up.
Yeah.
Ruth, I'm just now seeing that you sent me a text message yesterday.
Oh.
Look, I'm just now seeing that. Whatever. you know, and I guess people when we talk about, yeah, everybody hears us. You go to sleep early, I go to sleep early. If you send me something after a certain time, I'm not gonna see it anyway. I'm done with my phone. Stick a fork in it. It just, yeah, it just. Anyway. So yeah, I didn't see it. So my bad. Anyway, so I'm excited to get started. I hope everybody had an amazing, beautiful Tuesday, and
Enjoy that sunshine. Oh.
yeah, well, as brief as it was, but yes, it was good. Um, so I hope you had hope you had a great day, and today we are going to jump off in this because I don't want to say through, but I want to get to the story of Mark Rowland and why he started on this journey, why he was down this path.
Mm-hmm.
And since Erica has dubbed me sidetrack Sands, that whatever. I tell you, you got to just love her and her wittiness. We'll call it wittiness. um, yeah. So, okay. She says, "Oh, I can stream it. It was a very informative program for Black women." Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, I got so much stuff to catch up on. I don't think I turned I sometimes I want to say I didn't turn on my TV all day, but usually in the morning times I'll turn on this guy when I'm working out and
Mhm.
not necessarily do his workouts. He could be doing something like one thing and I'll be like over there, like he just like a dance partner. He moves a little slower than me, but yeah, that's my dance partner. So I do turn on the TV for him, and then I double time because I'm listening to my deep house music, and yes, and that's where I'm at. So so we started off, remember when we started off this chapter, the quote that he uses is in a dark time the eyes begin to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so he tells the story about how he began this journey. And he says that he says that he never set out to create a method of overcoming fear and anxiety. That wasn't his goal. He says that it began because one day he lost his vision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've I don't want to say we've all encountered somebody with similar stories. Um he started losing his vision, and it wasn't something where he was like in the throes of pain, and I think they decided that it wasn't diabetes, like we know people who have like these vision loss or temporary vision loss or whatever kind of vision loss for various reasons. But he says that he lost his vision, and he says that he says he was in the throes of his first ocular migraine.
Mm-hmm.
He said no real pain to speak of, just a cyclone of dark terror within which my vision was obscured.
Mhm.
And he said at 34 years of age, he was stumbling around his office in the murk, fingering his desk phone, trying to call 911, and that an ambulance was soon on his way. And so he was, as he was going through this, he said that his vision had become muddled before, and it usually returned in about an hour. And then he says, I just don't always know what's happening when these things happen to him. But he says, but for him, an ocular migraine was just the beginning. So he said within a couple of weeks, the vision in his left eye began to disappear. And faces and road signs started to look gray. Now, can you? I don't know. I don't know if everybody has done exercises where you've been blindfolded, or I've done team building exercises where you're the one blindfolded and then you're trying to get around, and it seems like everything is an obstacle course, because you can't, even though you think you remember what the room looks like or what the room is like, it's like you can't get 2 feet without bumping into something.
Yeah. And you're at the mercy of others.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, until you learn how to maneuver this. And so he said that the doctor informed him that his central serious that he had central serous
Theorist. Retinopathy.
retinopathy. Okay. A condition without a cure and a cause unknown. And he talks about it as if this fluid builds up and behind this thing, and whatever it is, it
Right.
causes not to see. And so he talks about, he goes through and he talks about, the numbers of people that have experienced this and the likelihood of total blindness and all of this stuff. And so he was like going through this thing, and he says the doctors were really unable to tell me about what was going on, what was causing this. And so, like we talked about in Anatomy of the Spirit, to look for a cause that is not like on the surface, like not an apparent thing, but what's the cause of this? And a lot of times what we do is when we have something that happens to us, a dis-ease, we run to a doctor to find, not usually a cure. Usually
You don't get a cure from the doctor.
yeah, what we do is we go to find a way to cope. And
Yeah.
so we get medication, or we take
We manage our anxiety and our fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not that we are looking for a cure. And so he was saying that, as he was going through this, he had the presence of mind to know that my greatest fear, this is what he says, my greatest fear was in unfolding in front of me. And he was helpless to do anything about it. He said, blind and unable to take care of myself and all alone, I'd fall apart. My life would be ruined and I would lose my will to live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that right there is like, what is your greatest fear? I mean, that, because he could sit there and he could say, like, I'm present in this stuff, and I got this awareness that this is a major fear for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, you hear that statement of Job, that which I fear
Here's the most.
has come upon me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could hear that resonating in what he is saying. And so he said that, he was going through and he was ruminating over this, replaying this incident, replaying the stuff in his head. And he was talking about how he was feeling hopeless, and these feelings were like taking up residence in his body. Now, mind you, this is a man who, up until this point, was having what seems like a successful career.
Mhm.
I mean, he had stuff going on. It's not like he was just some Joe Schmo off the street. He had a business that was going on. But now he was feeling helpless. He was feeling hopeless. And he was saying, and the deeper the hopeless feelings, they embedded themselves in his body.
Mhm.
Now, for just a second, hopelessness is a big, huge word.
Yeah, and it's a big, huge experience too. And with him being a mental health professional, we what he was having, what we would call ants, automatic negative thoughts. And we have this prescription on how to assist people with automatic negative thoughts, and you bring them to fruition, you put them before you, and then you tell yourself the truth about the automatic negative thoughts. But he's having these automatic negative thoughts and he is blind, like what do you do with that? So I can imagine having these tools and to help someone else with the tools that we've been given, but then they're not even applicable. You're trying to arrest the automatic negative thoughts. You're trying to come into a place of acceptance. You're trying to come into a place of surrender. You're trying to utilize all the things that you're giving prescribing to others.
Mm-hmm.
And now these things are haunting him. Like he cannot get rid of them. He cannot get rid of them. I'm sure imposter syndrome kicked in, so many other things that had more to do with just his eye, but just his whole profession.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I sit in this and stand in this and maintain the integrity to what I've gone to school for to help others with?
Mm-hmm.
That level of hopelessness too is like, yeah, it's yeah. When
Yeah.
I read that, my compassion was just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So and so one of the things that, as he's going through this, it's almost as if, for me, sometimes you got to sit in the space to really feel what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
and and usually people don't let themselves sit in the space,
Nope.
you know
We self-medicate somehow.
right. It's just, just make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's our whole thing, is make it go away. And so one of the things that when he sat in the space, he came up with words, to describe his feeling of despair. One of which was alone,
Mm-hmm.
the other one was helpless, and another one was ruined. And he says, and these were like, if we had to talk about the pillars of his own fear,
Yes.
this was the pillars of his fear. I was watching something the other day. Oh, I watched that movie Don't Look Up. Whatever.
Heard
I
of it.
watched that on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that this woman said to this scientist is that you are going to die lonely and alone. And it was as if when she said that, he was like, what? And and he started working in the opposite direction to correct the stuff, correct the the violations that he had made in his life, so that he didn't end up lonely and alone. But it was almost like this about face moment, like, oh no, I'm not. Like, I don't have to be lonely and alone. And for each of us, y'all may not believe this, but this is a choice that each of us makes, right? We can make a choice. Oh, I gotta do sidetrack.
Girl, don't let Erica worry you.
I was teaching a class one time. And this woman who used to come to the church and who used to come to the classes, she got so upset with me because I did this class and I talked about something to do. I don't know if you ever heard me talk about this, but I said that I have been in relationships that had been something to do. And she was like, what do you mean something to do? I said, you know what? I said, even Jesus told us to occupy till I come. I was like, so I wasn't looking for my forever love. I wasn't looking for friends that would be there forever. I was looking for something to do. And so I did something to do. Well, how do you think that something to do would feel about you doing something to do? I was like, I think he was actually happy. I was like, I said, sometimes people are happy to be something to do. It's really interesting because one of the things that I think that we have been taught over and over again is that relationships and love must be forever. And it does not have to be forever. It only has to fulfill what it is that you are doing right now. And if the other person is caught up in this has got to last forever, then that's not your person. Then let them go on their merry way. But if a person is really just, wanting the experience of whoever it is, that devotion.
Something to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was like thinking, hey, it was something to do. And so when the something to do was over with, I could, just like I always talk about the wave in the ocean, I could say, thank you for the experience. Thank you for the ride. It's time for me to move on. Mm-hmm. It's time for me to be about some different business. But she was so caught and so angry at the idea that somebody could say something to do. I'm thinking, what part of us is caught up on the happily ever after? Like forever.
And the reality is that if that's your journey, that's your journey. Why get upset about your journey? I think that is, now that I understand that that's a thing, for me, because I'm a question asker, mm-hmm. That's a good question. Is this just something to do? I think that that's a fair question. And I desire, my prayer is always that I connect with people who have integrity. And I love to ask that question. It's just something to do. Are you bored?
It doesn't lack integrity, right?
No, I'm saying that to ask the question so that person can be like, oh, maybe this is just something to do. Yeah. Because, and it's okay. That if that's your thing, you can make an informed decision. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, everybody doesn't have to have the same ending narrative. So get yourself in alignment with people who are in alignment with you.
So even in that, there's I used to have this this little postcard that said, if you can't find Mr. Right, find Mr. Right now. Mm-hmm. Right? Because a lot of times what we do is we keep letting the bus pass us by because it's not headed to the destination that we want to go. And so the destination that a lot of people want to go in is till death do us part. And
my belief in that destination is that becomes a destination after the relationship has been built. I don't know that it is wisdom to have that as the destination in the beginning. I think that it's wise to have that can be a destination that happens. It's a possibility. It's something that is on the shelf, but let's nurture what is right here, because everybody got a different mindset of happily ever after or to death do us part. Everybody has a different ideation about that. And I can speak from my own experience. If we don't get that quantified and clarified, that's a lot of drama.
well, it's drama if, say for instance, I mean, it can be drama for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you think that this destination is going to take you till death do us part. And then at some point, we wake up and we find out, no, this is not going to happen till death do us part. Now, is it wrong for you to take that bus to as far as it would go? I mean, to me, it's like, okay, let me ride, right? Because I don't know that this is going to be where it ends up. But I know that it's a choice of either me standing still or me getting on board. So I mean, and like, say for instance, if we were looking at you, you got some wonderful sons out of the deal, right?
Oh, I got so much more than sons. It's just it's beautiful, and I still love my husbands. I love both of them, and we are very good friends, and so it is a forever for me,
right?
Because of me. I don't know about them, but for me, when I said I loved you that deep, that hasn't changed, and I don't feel that I have to have it change because we're no longer husband and wife and living under the same roof. I don't have that in my system, because for me, and I'm not minimizing anybody else's love experience, but for me, I meant that thing when I said it. But I'm also realistic enough to know that this is where I leave you. This is where this is how this has to end. But what I experienced, or imagine I experienced, that was authentic for me. And I don't need to cut you off or be bitter, or in the tearing away that hurts. Yes, not saying that was rosy, but at the end of the day, I can still stand in. If my love was unconditional, then I don't need you to be in condition for me to have the love that I feel in my space. And and so then we can just move on. I get to do my healing and keep it moving. But sometimes people, imagine that you got to be bitter and it's got to be severed. But that was our happily ever after for the 7 years with the other one, the 20 years with the other one. That was the happily ever after. That was the book for that story.
And see, and that's exactly the point. But so many people would want to let that pass them by if it wasn't forever, if they didn't have this, because a lot of times people do. We take the vows, we stand up and we say, until death do us part, and serious about that, right? But what in the conversations with God, he says that when it's over, it is the death of the relationship. It's done. So it's not as if two people lied. This just doesn't work anymore.
Right. Well, I've grown where I can grow. And I imagine, be it right or wrong, I imagine that whatever other growth I need to do, I can't do it here. And I'm okay. And let's be okay with that. Or even the other person saying, my partner said to me, we were in marriage therapy the last time we went to counseling. And he said, do not ask me to change one more thing. I'm not. I can't. This is it. Like, this is as far as I can go, Steph. And all I could do was honor that. And then decide is that enough for me? But we got to create a space where people can live and tell their truth, as hard as it is. Like, no, don't say that. But it was the truth. And I had to come to a reality that my ideation of what this was supposed to be or could be is maybe wrong, you know, or different. And so you set up a space where you can release people, because to me, that's what love does. Love says, I love you enough to keep my hands open. If you decide to walk away, I don't have a right to like hold you hostage
Yeah,
in this.
I remember hearing somebody else have that same argument with somebody that they are no longer with, about this idea of, I have changed and shrunk so much that I no longer recognize me.
Hmm.
He was like, and so I gotta go.
Yeah. And so my partner was just the opposite. He was empowered, and because when I met him, he was whatever. But he just felt like he tells the kids, I made my greatest choices was joining the Air Force and marrying your mother. I am the man that I am today because of the relationship that she and I had. And I think it's because he came from a household where he couldn't tell his truth. And I'm all about, tell me your truth, tell me your truth, tell me your truth. And I made it okay, even some stuff that was not very nice, on the inside to hear. I didn't want to hear some of that stuff, but when you make it safe for people to just be who they are, you also give them permission to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And to leave is not easy; it's hard work, but you just got to give people, not just, I hate saying that. I have found on my journey, be it my children or my partners, I get to learn more about who I'm dealing with when I let people tell their truth, and I don't let my offense get in the way where don't tell me your truth anymore. Don't tell me that you don't like this anymore. Don't tell me your truth. I need you to pretend. And a lot of times we get in connections where people are saying, you don't get to tell me. That hurt my feelings. Okay, but it's my truth. And then just making it safe to say, can we talk about this? Like, so yeah, when that person said, don't ask me to do that no more. Don't ask me to not be who I am, because who I am is who I am. I like to go out, I like to dance, I like to have a good time. I love family and stuff like that. And my partner was definitely a loner.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we were here, I could have parties and entertain and do whatever. But when we left and lived in Chicago and we lived in Kansas, it was just us. I need you to show up. I left my family. And that buster was like, yeah, no, go make you some friends. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. So,
So, so all I'm saying is, when I was clear about this is something to do, all I'm saying is yeah, do what's before you to do, right?
mhm,
And that doesn't mean that you got to ride every bus. That doesn't mean that you got to get on every bus, but be aware that the choice to stand still is
mhm,
your choice too. So you can't blame life for sending something that you didn't want to ride on. That's the story of, everybody always talking about that story about, the person in the flood, and they were praying, God send
send me.
rescue me, and somebody knocks at the door, and then somebody comes to the window, and then when they up on the roof, and they sent the helicopter, and still they sitting up there saying, no, God will provide, God will provide. And so that when they get to heaven, because they drowned, they was like saying, God, where were you? And he was like, I sent somebody to the door. When you were on the second floor, I sent somebody there. When you was on the rooftop, I sent somebody there. I sent, you know and so sometimes we are so busy thinking about how we want it. No, not you. Get out the way. That's not it. That's not going. Blah, blah, blah. Do what's before you to do. right? And if it turns out to be something to do, don't get bitter, don't curse it.
Yeah, like why are you here? Like you just become curious. Like,
Yeah.
well, why did you show up on my journey and what's that for us to do?
Right. And then allow that, sometimes people will surprise and delight you. Right. And then
Yes.
sometimes people will reaffirm
Mm-hmm.
that, you know what, I have the courage to step on board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just so that we learn so much. We learn so much about ourselves. Like, yeah,
Mm,
don't look away. I just love that.
yeah. um so he says what he didn't know was that those words, alone, helpless, and ruined, were part of his personal language of fear. Part of his personal language of fear. And so through this book, one of the things that he will, remind us is figure out what your personal language of fear is. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to tell me or Stephanie, right? But know for yourself what your person, what are you afraid of, right? Is it dying alone? Is it like his? Is it being helpless and needing to depend on others? What is your own words of fear, your personal language of fear? And he says they echo traumas that took place in his family history even before he was born.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that was that, so he says these words in his head were in his head and they rattled in his body. So he says, I wonder why I gave my thoughts such power. And he says other people had adversity far worse than he is, and they didn't dwell in the depths like he was dwelling in the depths. And some people, we can go to those depths, right? People get themselves so worked up, right? We get so fearful. Um, thinking that we're in an unsafe world, that there's all of this badness all around us. We get psyched up to the point
It's our
where,
own meditation. I say, I was like, we meditate on our fears. We rehearse them, and what we learn. I don't know if that was in the Course of Miracles, that it becomes a prayer.
yes, it does,
It becomes
because
a
we are
prayer.
breathing life into them. Even when we don't have evidence to support them, we breathe into them.
We're amazing creators.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so he asked the question, what about me stayed so deeply entrenched in fear? And he says that it would take him years before he answered the question. I used to tell this story about when I was in college. Well, at first I was working for the city of Cleveland. I said I had me a good government job, and I was, I was, making some money. And I had gone to this showroom one day while the Cosby's was on. It was a Thursday. I went to the showroom because I needed to pick out a car. And so I picked out this Nissan Pulsar that was sitting in the showroom, on the showroom floor. That's the car I want. Give it to me, like wrap it up, let me take it home. I didn't know it was going to take longer than the Cosby Show. With I was not going to miss. I was going to miss the Cosby Show. So I drove this car, this brand new car, home, and I was working for the city. And then at some point, while I'm working for the city, I pivoted and I decided, you know what? I don't want this. Me sitting up there thinking this car was, something special, that the clothes, that's when I was paying, hundreds of dollars for shoes and for sweaters and all of this crap. I was shopping and I was flossy. I was actually dating one of the Browns players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, I would take clothes to work with me because I go to work in work boots, like some steel toe shoes and jeans and stuff like that. But I go in the bathroom and change. And when I get out, I was like, I'm flossy, right? I was that girl. and and I remember one day sitting in there at my desk in this dusty ass storeroom with my new car sitting outside. And I was like thinking to myself as they were talking about overtime and how much money they was gonna make. I was thinking to myself, do I want this to be the story of my life? Do I want to be sitting up worrying about overtime and punching a clock for the rest of my life? And so that was when I decided I'm going to school. I'm taking my ass to college. That was when I decided that. Just sitting there listening to those people, I was like, I don't want this to be the totality of my life. So I started working towards going to school, and I wrote this long list out to God, and I was saying, be quiet, Erica. I wrote
Good morning, Erica.
this. She like a little kid sometimes. Long list out, and I was like, okay, God, if this happens, this happens, this happens. I'm writing this list out, and I'm saying, if all of this happens, then I'm gonna go to college. And I was thinking that this was gonna be stuff like, it was stuff like paying off stuff and and regrouping and all of this stuff. So I was thinking that this stuff was gonna take me at least a year. Girl, that list was so bam, it was gone. It was like I was checking off stuff like, that's done. Oh, that's done. Stuff coming out of the clear blue. So now I had to quit. It's like put up or shut up. So I had to quit my job, and I enrolled in school. And the next thing I know, I was gone. Anyway, fast forward, I'm in school. I'm out there. You should have seen me. There's a reason why young people go to college, right? Here I was, $180 sweater that got the little gold thing running through it. I had got it at this store that Oprah shopped at in Chicago. My shirt was bad. And I had on heels trying to go to class with a book bag. Girl, I was walking in class late, and they looking at me all funny. And so I was like, I had to come clear across campus, and somebody else was like, I did too. And I was like, whoa, like, I don't know how you got here so fast. And she was like, I'm not wearing 4-inch heels. So like now all of a sudden I got to give up my heels so I can hightail it
to class.
And I started hauling ass, right? My whole wardrobe changed because I was like thinking to myself, I am not failing before I get started here. And that was my option. So my whole life changed, my whole life. And I still had my new car. And I remember I met this guy who this was I think in my second semester, and this guy took me out to eat and everything like that, which I was thankful for because I was broke and I was all of these other issues and everything. He took me out to eat, and I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, let me show you my car, sort of thing. I was trying to play it off like, just we happened to be walking in the backyard. It's just dumb because I'm no longer wearing my expensive shoes or my expensive sweaters. So I still wanted to show him that I was somebody.
I have something, right?
As if the car was making me somebody, right? I don't know what I was thinking, but I walked them back there to the yard, and I look at the garage, and I'm like, where's my car? And so I run into the garage, and I'm like, where's my car? I'm turning around in circles. It's a stall, right? It's nowhere for the car to go. Girl, I bent over and I started staring at the ground. Where is my car? Like I'm on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I'm like staring, and I was like, it was right here. That's what I kept saying to him. I turned around and I looked at him like, it was right here. It was right here. So then he was like, well, let's go call the police. Girl, I call the police. And the police was like, first they was like, okay, we'll, what color, what's the license plate, and what, asking me all these questions. And then they said, oh, I'm sorry, your car was repossessed. So it took me, that dude, when he walked out of the house, I was sitting there like I was in shock, right? I couldn't. And so, I had hardwood floors. I didn't even sleep in my bed. I couldn't sleep in my bed. I laid on the floor because I felt like somebody had just pulled the rug from under me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already shrunk as far as I could go.
Wow.
Felt like
Oh, I got God bumps
at the bottom.
I get that.
Yeah, I was at my bottom. And I laid on that floor. I couldn't even go to school. I laid on that floor, and that was when I started this argument with God. God, why would you do this? And I remember asking the question, who am I now?
Mm-hmm.
And like I got that answer back. Heifer, let me show you who you are. And that was when I always think that everybody has to go through those moments where you start to question who you are so that you can be shown who you are.
Yes. If you allowed, if you submit to it, if you submit to as Mark calls it, the ruin, if you submit to that, you can get an answer, but it's a courageous space to sit in.
Yeah, it was, but and you're right. There were some people who never allow themselves to have that real conversation or to be changed by it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are people who, what we do is we scramble for the next thing.
Or who to blame.
Yes. Who to blame? Whose fault is this? Or
how do I self-correct, fix it so it doesn't exist?
Or if I can't hang my hat on this, then I got to get something else.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's that kind of thing that I was going through. And so I was sitting in this space, and I was asking the question, okay, who am I without this stuff? Who am I? And so as I asked the questions about who am I, what's my worth, and what's my value, I was shown something totally different. And so I had to get my butt up off of the floor and get on with it, right? And get on with life. And I never again looked back on this idea that something outside of me established my worth. My worth could no longer be attached to any of that stuff. And even when people think or are tempted to think that I measure myself by stuff, it's like, yeah, that's where you get that pushback from, because even in that, I'm not the clothes I wear. I like nice clothes like another person does. I'm not jewelry. I'm not a car. I'm not a house. I'm not an education. My value does not lie out there. Right. And so so for me, it was like all of a sudden my compass kicked in. Good morning, Everett. He said he had the same conversation with God, and his answer was, good question. Who are you? I'll wait. He says
High
it
five.
real,
It's so
real
true.
quick. Yeah. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. Well,
Yes.
8:40.
Okay, yeah, because my
Got
little
a
thing
9 o'clock.
told me it was time for me to do my next thing. So all right, y'all. So
Good.
tomorrow we'll pick up.
Yes. Pay
Uh,
attention to your fear language.
yes, yes. What is your deepest fear?
Mhm.
And so yeah, we'll pick up there tomorrow and then move on. Yeah,
Yes. Have
thank
an
you.
amazing,
Thank
wonderful
you, Stephanie.
Wednesday. Thank you.
Yes, look, blessings to you. And you know what? It's so funny because I get all kind of reactions from my something to do conversations. So thank you for rolling with me.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm all about it. That
Because
makes
that
me.
woman was hot with me because I guess she had been something to do.
Mm,
And she was so done. Who it's those moments though. It's those moments they can either make us or
that's
make us
right.
better.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Well,
All right.
have an amazing morning.
You too. Thank you,
All right.
darling. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. All right, y'all. Have an amazing and fabulous day. It is Wednesday, and yeah, there is so much good in this. Yes. So yeah, he says his answer was, "Who are you?" I'll wait. That's good, Everett. But yeah, I was shown that what I was and who I thought I was so much more than what I was thinking at the time. So hopefully all of us are brave enough to have that conversation and to sit in it until you get your answer, right? And it comes up. Yeah, it does bubble up. That's exactly how it happens. It's not, it's not like the ghost of Christmas past, right? Those things bubble up inside of you if you allow them, if you got the courage to sit in it, right? So this is good. This is good. All right, y'all. We are in the book, if in case you didn't hear. It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. We have started a new book, and we invite you along the journey with us if you so choose. You can get the book either. Stephanie said they had one more at the half price bookstore yesterday, or you can buy it on Amazon. You can contact me or Libby app. Libby app is on your phone through the library. Okay, excellent, excellent. Ruth got hers from the library. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I love y'all. I have an amazing day, and I'll see you, God willing, in the creek don't rise. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 7:30-ish. And yeah, all is well. All right. Blessings to you. All right. See ya. I gotta take the dog to the groomer today. She don't know it yet, but oh well. All right, bye.